I recall the precise moment the envelope arrived at my door. The young man who delivered it, the courier, had a disinterested look on his face. He gave it to me silently, utterly oblivious to the fact that he had just given my marriage the death penalty. This white envelope was the same as the hundreds I'd received over the years, but this one held something different. It held finality. It was heavier than paper. I flipped it over in my hands. My name, Nathan Carter, was printed in soulless, icy black writing. And though no sender was listed, I already knew who it was from. Malene Carter. My wife of 30 years. My fingers stood, firm as I broke the seal, but my heart told a different tale. Deep down, I already knew what was inside. A part of me still held on to hope, a foolish, fragile hope that she would at least speak with me before making this decision. But as I unfolded the pristine pages of the divorce petition, the words became painfully clear. After a brief moment of blurring, I focused past the legal jargon, straight to the part that mattered. She was demanding a significant sum in alimony. I exhaled slowly. The anger didn't come all at once. It arrived gradually, controlled. But beneath that surface, a storm was brewing. After everything I had contributed, decades of sacrifice, time, effort, everything, this was my reward. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. But then, as I continued reading, my stomach twisted into a deeper pit. She had signed the papers without saying a word to me, without even the courtesy of a conversation. A neatly stacked set of agreements. A demand that I, the man who built everything we had, now had to pay her for the privilege of leaving. And then, the final twist of the knife. Our daughter, Lily, supported the divorce. I ran a hand through my hair, forcing myself to breathe. I had always known Malene's influence over Lily was strong. But to see my own child take her mother's side without hesitation? That hurt more than anything. Before I could stop myself, I grabbed my phone and called Malene. She answered on the third ring. Nathan. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. She had been expecting this call. I don't understand why, I said, hearing the edge in my own voice. There was a pause. Then, a soft exhale. You should have, she replied. This was always going to happen. I swallowed back the bitterness rising in my throat. You didn't think we should talk about it first? I asked. She let out a small, almost amused laugh. Talk about what, Nathan? You're never here. You're always in meetings, always on airplanes. It's time I started thinking about my own happiness. My grip on the phone tightened. And what about Lily? Don't bring Lily into this, she snapped, her tone sharp with real emotion. You turned her against yourself. You were never there. My jaw clenched. Malene sighed, exasperated. Nathan, she's a grown woman now. I closed my eyes. Lily. She had been my little girl, the child who used to run into my arms when I came home from a trip. But now, when I walked through the door, she looked at me like a stranger. I softened my voice, though I could still hear the smug satisfaction in Malene's tone. Our lives, she said, will be easier this way. She spoke as if I had never existed, as if my role in their world had already ended. I inhaled sharply. My gaze fell to the divorce papers on the table. The ink had dried. The decision had been made. You finally got what you wanted, I murmured. She hummed in acknowledgement. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. But I wasn't listening anymore. Something inside me shifted. A different mindset took over, the same one I used in high-stakes negotiations, the one that stripped away emotion and focused only on strategy. Malene thought she had won. She assumed I would give her everything, that I would walk away without a fight. But what she didn't realize was, I never walked away from a negotiation without ensuring it ended on my terms. She thought she knew what everything meant. She had no idea. For the first time in years, I felt something close to relief. The game had just begun. I had to give them the same sense of freedom that I had since I felt like she was stealing everything from me. She believed she was leaving me the house, the money, and the prestige, ultimate prize. I called her without first consulting a lawyer, and she was mistaken. I wanted a detailed picture of every asset in my name, including every joint account, not for a friend, but for a financial investigator. Every investment linked to Malene, and I discovered that she had been draining me of all my money, which was worse than I had anticipated. For years, I spent money on extravagant shopping sprees and trips, never knowing how much she took. And Lily? She was just as guilty. She had been using my credit cards for years, racking up thousands in luxury outfits, pricey restaurants, and five-star vacations. They were spending money like it grew on trees, for holidays and birthdays, while I was working late shifts. It was time to reverse the situation. They believed I was being deprived of everything. They didn't realize I already had. I started revising the game's regulations. The initial step was for SE to operate assets. Malene wanted everything to be okay, so I would give her everything, but just the useless parts. After a week, I had given her ownership of everything. The luxury condo was no longer in my name. The stocks had been liquidated. The house? It was never in my name to start with. The business investments? Bought out. My victory came the day the divorce was finalized. Malene celebrated as if she had won the lottery, wearing a smug, satisfied expression as we sat in the lawyer's office. "Everything is in order," she said, her voice brimming with contempt. "I hope we can deal with this in a mature manner." I nodded naturally, maintaining a blank expression. She anticipated that. I would struggle for the house, the money, and the assets. Instead, I sat back and let her think she had won. She left the office with the impression that she had just obtained the easiest divorce settlement in history. Reality soon caught up with her. A few days later, I received a call. I didn't answer. Then another. And finally, she left a voicemail. "Nathan, I need to talk to you. I think I made a mistake." I smirked. "No, Malene. The mistake was underestimating me." I let her dwell in her misunderstanding for a bit before responding, casually. Asking about the problem, she snapped, "Nathan, the investments are gone. The accounts are empty." I chuckled. "Oh, that? They were never yours to begin with." "What about the condo?" she demanded. "I was merely renting the property. It was always registered in my friend Marcus's name." Then, her voice dropped to a whisper, Lily's angry whisper. "You fooled yourself, Lily," I said. "I just corrected you." Then the next call wasn't from Malene. It was from Lily. "Dad," she started, her voice unusually soft. "Mom's stressing out. She claims there's no money left." I just responded, "Come on, Dad, stop playing around. You still have money?" She laughed nervously. Before responding, I took a sip of my coffee. "Tell me, Lily, where do you think my money went? Into your handbags? Your trips? The car your mother bought you with my credit card?" She stammered. I didn't think—" "No, you didn't," I interjected. "Neither did your mother. And now you both get to live with the consequences." The silence on the other end was deafening. For years they had used me, laughed at me, and discarded me. But now, they were the ones left with nothing. And I wasn't finished yet. One card remained to be played against Carter, the man who had deceived me. The man who had gloated over the years, sitting across from my wife in that restaurant, was about to deal with his own reckoning. I had been collecting evidence for months. Every transaction, every shady business deal, every skeleton in his closet. And when the moment was perfect, I sent it all to his ex-wife. She had no idea that her husband had an illegitimate child, that he had been funneling money into Malene's lifestyle for years. But she took everything when she found out. His home, his savings, his retirement fund. Carter, the man who believed he was untouchable, was suddenly begging for assistance. Then Malene called again. But her voice had changed. No longer arrogant, no longer triumphant. "Nathan," she said, "we need to talk." I leaned back in my chair. She was desperate. "I made mistakes," she hesitated. "But you don't have to do this. You don't have to leave us like this." I grinned at her audacity. "You left me a long time ago." She was silent. Then, for the first time in decades, she cried. I let her feel every bit of the betrayal I had felt, just as she had done to me. Then I hung up. Checkmate. Malene believed she had taken everything from me, but in the end, she was the one left with nothing. There's a certain silence that follows when someone realizes they've lost everything. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's an oppressive silence, one that chokes the air from their throat